Hey, greetings there, everyone. It's GleeCon here again with another episode of Lord of Warcraft. On our last one, we looked at Chronicles. We wrapped up year 24, and we are right now in the year that the Classic begins. There's a little bit more to wrap up before we go. We've got to finish Cycle of Hatred and a couple other Chronicles things, a couple other little tiny things to put a bow on. As the burning blade continues to foment conflict between the two sides, the Horde and the Alliance. And we also began on our parallel side journey through the errata and weirdness of the side lore of Warcraft, the fringe canon and non-canon. The World of Warcraft Dungeons and Dragons campaign, they decided to kick that off right around the time that they brought off World of Warcraft. They're like, hey, we just made all those books. Why not remake them with a new veneer? So stay a while and listen as we continue that journey through the original campaign setting book, source material, and we're on part 1. It's called Heroes. A picture of an orc there with Orgrimmar in the background. So it says, the Warcraft role-playing game revolves around you, the hero. The story crafted by the game master or GM or DM focuses on the fighters and healers, the necromancers and beastmasters, on those who lead armies, who sneak in the night, who fight the demons and sometimes undead for control of their world, sometimes because the undead are now full-on playable characters. So, there are abilities, and meaning ability scores, and the standard tables. You can no longer get this high naturally in 5th edition, so this is revised 3rd edition now, but just how to generally create characters, not different really from from Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, and look, now I just got pictures from the game throughout. This is an Alliance squad here. And what do the stats mean? So they have replaced Wisdom with Spirit. Isn't that cute? But yes, other than that, you still have Strength, Agility, Stamina replaces Constitution, Intellect, Intelligence, and Charisma. So these are, what are these? Bonus spell slots. Again, that changes as you go along. What happens when you have 0 scores? How to use strength for lifting. So this is all just basic D&D 101 and how it fits into the world. Weight limits based on strength, carrying loads. This is a picture of some orc, maybe a blade master. And that is it. That's all of chapter 1. I guess I'll continue to zoom through because that was really short and there's not a lot of flavor there. So we'll just maybe we'll push through the whole first part. So let's look at the races that they give us. There are racial descriptions, which we're going to get into. And while we have a table here, we'll skip it because we'll just look at the races. Now you can have racial levels, which I do think is cool. That's something unique to the game. All right, so you can be an Ironforged dwarf. And we'll read the description, but that's about it for each of these. The dwarves of Ironforge are proud, stern, and determined people with streaks of kindness hidden under the gruff exteriors of their sturdy frames. Their love for battle, invention, and exploration impels them ever forward to discover and unearth the mysteries of their heritage, educating them further about those who first created the dwarven race. Only recently have the dwarves discovered the legacy of their ancient progenitors, the Titans. As the dwarves begin to delve deeper into the mysteries of their past, they also begin to uncover deeper enigmas. Still, they keep to the forges and workshops, ever innovating and creating new and more effective ways to destroy. Steam-powered technology and firearms originate from dwarven inventiveness and creativity. The stout race is renowned for its skills at battle and also as cunning engineers and crafters. The uncovered fragments of their distant past have led the dwarves on an unprecedented exodus of exploration. Seeking out their origins, the dwarves have dispatched prospectors across all of Lordaeron in order to seek out signs of the Titans, the supposed creators of the dwarves. The dwarves have embraced the idea that it is their purpose to search the world for more signs of proof of their heritage. Dwarven outposts exist in the most desolate of places. Here, the dwarves spend their time seeking out the secrets of ancient times, or simply use their outposts as staging grounds for expeditions to clear out their enemies so that they may continue on their quest. Alright, so it gives a little appearance. We can just tell how they look. The region, they live in and around Ironforge Mountain, Dun Morog, Loch Modan, Cosmodon, and they are affiliated with the Alliance. They do worship the light, but they also have an investigative relationship with the Titans. And then they give you some example names, family names. We get the racial traits of them. Stone cunning. So I do like how that comes in. Stability. That's more of a dwarf racial trait. And what do they get with dwarf levels? A D8 to their hit die. Some extra class skills. Eventually, I guess you could level up and get stone flesh, which gives you extra armor class. Okay, cool. All right, so I don't know how you level up as a dwarf. Maybe you can take up to 3 levels in being a dwarf. So you just choose it, and it just gains you these extra little skills, hit die, and proficiencies. Okay, so the high elves. So the high elves still exist in this game setting. And that's because we haven't fully shifted over to Blood Elf. That's interesting because they don't really exist in World of Warcraft. You can encounter them, I'm sure, but they're not part of the game. You can't play them. The ancient origins of the High Elves are a legacy of tragedy and conflict, a series of events that has profoundly affected the development of the Quel'Darai. The High Elves are a stark contrast to their nocturnal cousins, the Night Elves or Kald'arai. Embracing the light of the sun and forsaking the night, the High Elves are the descendants of the very elves who served Dajara in the time of the Well of Eternity. The Kald'arai regard the High Elven penchant for using arcane magic as careless, akin to a foolish child playing with fire. The schism that separates the Highborn Elves and the Night Elves is one so ancient that no amount of diplomacy or offerings of peace can soothe the scars of history. The arrogance of the High Elves led to the War of the Ancients and ultimately to the downfall of the Golden Age of Elven civilization. Through the reckless use of arcane magic, the High Elves allowed darkness to seep into the world and corrupt Azeroth. Even now the High Elves find themselves enslaved to the very thing that often destroys them. Arcane magic is a powerful drug to the High Elves, and it can be a lure to a dark and perilous path, yet too many wield it as if they were doing no harm, and few but the oldest and most sage can recall the true reasons why the use of such magic is a dangerous and potentially damning practice. Regardless of the risks, some High Elves press onwards to revel in the euphoria and power that the use of magic brings them. The High Elves are a tragic example of a race in decline. Their centuries of arcane practice have led them into an ever-tightening downward spiral. Now there are few Quel'Darai left. Most have gone with Kael'thas Sunstrider to become the Blood Elves, and in doing so, have allied with the sworn enemies of elvenkind, the Naga. Now the scant remaining Quel'Darai are typically those who have embraced the light and seen past the powers of arcane magic and darkness. Distrusted by almost all of the races, the remaining High Elves are pariahs, in an age when there is little left for them but a life of mistrust and woe. So, they are a people without a home, because Quel'Thalas is currently destroyed, and most of them left with Kael'thas. So, yeah, they don't have a homeland, because their homeland is the Blood Elf homeland now. They are affiliated with the Alliance, and those that remain do worship the light. You get some racial traits and some High Elf levels that you can pick, increasing your caster abilities. All right, let's look at the Night Elves now. The Kald'arai are an ancient and reclusive race born during the waking of the world. Their ancient heritage has shaped them into a devoted warrior race with a reverence for nature and animistic mystical forces. The Kald'arai are practical but superstitious and often a paradox. They are a people possessed with a deep spiritual passion and a desire to find solace. In the time before, the Kald'arai were immortal, but powerful magic recklessly unleashed by the Quel'Darai. This careless use of magical might allowed the Burning Legion to invade the world and finally led to a catastrophic battle known as the Sundering. This battle changed the face of Azeroth for all time and resulted in the creation of the continents of the world, tearing the land apart and forming the vast nexus of energy at the center of the ocean known as the Maelstrom. The Night Elves are honorable to a fault, and they are a just and sometimes compassionate people. Still, they do not trust many of the lesser races of the world, whom they see as foolish and too short-lived to recall the mistakes they made in the past. Many of the Night Elves consider it their duty to ensure the safety and balance of the world. Because of this perceived air of superiority, many of the younger races mistrust the Night Elves, if not for their shadowy magic, then for their aloof and judging demeanor. They do show how tall they are. They live within the island continent of Teldrassil, so they have relocated there in Darnassus. They are affiliated with the Alliance, but they are not the most trusted or highly regarded members of this group of races. Okay? And I kind of want to read this because we don't know why they've joined the Alliance yet. So let's kind of poke into that for a second. Although honorable and just, the Night Elves' natural distrust has tainted their relations somewhat. Combined with their mystical appearances and mysterious natures, interactions with other races become uncomfortable at times. There's a strong streak of isolationism in the Kaldorei, for they're uncomfortable leaving the verdant mists of Teldrassil. Still, the Night Elves' leaders see wisdom in an alliance with the younger races. The younger races show potential, and because of this, the Night Elves see themselves as observers waiting to step in to correct any dangerous mistakes. In addition, the other races possess one quality the Night Elves have been missing for some time: excitement. Adventure and exotic locales now have appeal to novice Night Elves. The Kaldorei have more than a few among them who have braved leaving the forest to seek out fortune and intrigue in far-off lands. Their hatred of orcs has also fueled their participation in the Alliance. After the death of Cenarius during the Third War, many sentinels, druids, and warrior Night Elves began a great hunt. Some Night Elves happily hunt orcs as a repayment for Cenarius' murder. Okay, and the faith. For faith, the Night Elves worship the ancients, such as Elune, Malorn, who technically I believe Malorn is a demigod. And while Cenarius is dead, they still venerate the children of Cenarius. They give us some names and the racial traits. I love Night Elves. They're a cool race. And you can take some class skills and upping them. They have Shadow Meld as well. All right, gnomes. We finally have our gnomies back in the picture. Also a great race. Really, there's not a race I don't like in World of Warcraft. I love them all. Gnomes are a diminutive, wiry race of tinkers who live underground. In the Second War, they built vehicles and gadgets for the Alliance, submarines, and flying machines to combat the Horde. They are great mechanics and inventors and are renowned for their knowledge and eccentric natures. The gnomes had a city, Gnomragon, built into Ironforge Mountain, but invading Trogs destroyed it and slaughtered its citizens. Many survivors moved in Cosmodown and now live with the Ironforge dwarves, and a few traveled with their dwarven friends to Kalimdor. The gnomes are still reeling from the destruction of their home city and are loath to leave the safety of the dwarven tunnels. Most gnomes on Kalimdor remain secluded in Baal Modan. Even after the decimation of their race and the destruction of their city, gnomes are an amiable and kind-hearted lot. They make and keep friends easily. Others find disliking a gnome to be difficult. Gnomes are long-lived and take a fatherly approach to other races, particularly humans. Gnome society is loosely organized. Most live in Cosmodan and mix freely with the dwarves, sending representatives to speak to the Dwarven King on their behalf. Those few gnomes who travel to Kalimdor live in a similar fashion in Baal Modan. Gnomes are gifted tinkers. They have a penchant for creating radical technology and innovative designs. They often work together with Ironforge dwarves, developing the blueprints and concepts from which the dwarf smiths draw their inspiration. They live in Dun Morag, and Baal Modan would be their Kalimdor base. They are affiliated with the Alliance, we know that. They don't have much faith, but they can be priests and follow the Holy Light. They also have that same tie to the Titans that dwarves have. You can't take levels in Gnome if you look. There's no leveling up in Gnome. They get plenty of racial traits. They can be a tinker, but I don't see racial levels in Gnome. All right, let's look at goblins. I wonder if they're going to count these as... Yeah, I think we're going to get... I figured we'd get these as a race, but they're not yet Horde. Goblins are small humanoids, crafty and shrewd, bearing an overwhelming interest in commerce and a strong curiosity about mechanical things. Goblin society is fragmented, defined chiefly by commerce and trade. The ultimate schemers and con artists, goblins are always in search of a better deal. Other races universally view goblins as inventors, merchants, and without exception, maniacs. Goblins value technology as a useful aspect of commerce. Some say that their advantage and their curse is to be the primary users of technology in a world governed by magic. While dwarves and gnomes share a similar gift, goblin technology is more far-reaching and sinister and makes a larger impact on the natural world. They employ vast teams of engineers who expand on current technology and produce gadgets to suit a wide array of applications. They constantly build and repair machines and work on new ideas. Unfortunately, goblins alternate passionate genius with wandering focus. Their lack of discipline means that many creations end up half-finished as something else catches their attention. Goblin workmanship has a partially deserved reputation for unreliability, and a goblin device may explode simply because its creator forgot to add a vital release valve. Goblins are envious of the Ironforged dwarves' invention of firearms, both from a commercial and a technological standpoint. Goblins recognize that firearms represent a new source of power, and he who controls the source controls the gold, which is to goblins the ultimate power. Fortunately for the rest of the world, goblin firearm experimentation suffers from the race's normal laxity, and improperly tended gunpowder experiments continue to end the careers of many aspiring goblin tinkers. However, goblin ingenuity has paid off a few times. Goblin gunpowder weapons tend to be inelegant and violently explosive, landmines, rockets, and the like. A number of trade princes rule over Azeroth's various goblin holdings, though the trade princes all live in the goblin island city of Undermine, far from Kalimdor and the eastern continents. Each controls his own private army and trade fleet, so that's still a thing, but I don't know if Undermine stays part of the lore. Each trade prince has his own specialty, monopolizing trade in a certain area such as mining, deforestation, slavery, or poaching. The trade princes are the most cunning of their race and stop at nothing to amass their fortunes and power, whether through legitimate means or via black markets and treachery. Goblins encountered on Kalimdor and the eastern continents are freelancers, privateers, or agents of Undermine's trade princes. Goblins are tenacious fighters. They attack from range with crossbows or firearms, making individual modifications to dwarf-made weapons, and use maces, short swords, or bizarre homebrewed steam weaponry in melee. When attacked in their warrens, they fight with tools as well. Goblins have a good grasp of tactics and strategy and are masters of siege warfare. Their love of large machines makes them ideal mercenaries for attacking fortifications. Goblins are shrewd in business, and clients who believe they walked away with the upper hand are almost always sorely mistaken. To cheat a goblin is a dwarven idiom meaning to do what is practically impossible. Gambagi cheated a goblin when he escaped that cave-in. Goblins are also consummate tricksters and con artists. Their mission in the world is to create incredible new inventions, accrue the resulting wealth, and cause as much subtle mischief as possible along the way. And I think they gave them so much because they're really not touched upon as much in the games as of yet. Okay, let's look at their region. It says goblins are a wily, cunning race of traders and tinkers whom adventurers typically encounter as parts of trading envoys or on pirate raids. Goblin ships frequent the seas, ferrying or seeking riches, slaves, or exotic wares. Kalimdor's main goblin port is the party town of Ratchet, a harbor city located on the eastern shore of the Barrens, directly between Durotar and Theramore. Goblin trade outposts are found everywhere, including all major cities in such inhospitable realms as Northrend and Stranglethorn Vale. Their zeppelins run a wealthy business ferrying passengers across kingdoms and continents. That's true as well, but for the Horde. Goblins, I guess they do it their ships as well. Maybe the ships some of them run ships for the Alliance. Goblins are neutral, take pains to make sure their nearby customers play nice with each other. Goblin guards patrol Ratchet streets, keeping tabs on the various Horde and Alliance visitors. Traveling goblin merchants employ bodyguards to protect them and their wares. So they're independent, and they get some racial traits, and it doesn't look like they can be leveled up either. No levels of goblin available. Human. Humans are among the youngest races on Azeroth, but they make up for it by being the most populous. With lifespans generally shorter than the other races, humans strive all the harder excuse me, to achieve great heights in empire building, exploration, and magical study. This aggressive and inquisitive nature leads the human nations to become active and influential in the world. Such was the case prior to the Orcs' original invasion through the Dark Portal. Human kingdoms suffered greatly in the 3 wars against the Orcs and demonic hordes. Many humans fell in the Third War, leaving behind battered, yet unbowed survivors of the Alliance expedition under the command of the sorceress Jaina Proudmoore. This group settled on the wild continent of Kalimdor. The humans on the eastern continents were not so fortunate. Lordaeron is decimated, a wasteland, now little more than a battlefield for forest trolls, the Scourge, Forsaken, ogres, and other creatures. The few humans who remain in Lordaeron are ragged and weary, struggling constantly to keep their small settlements free of the villainy that boils around them. Stormwind, the first to feel the orcs' rage, fares better and is the most powerful human nation remaining. Still, Stormwind is far from safe and enemies advance on all sides. Humans value virtue, honor, and courage, though like all races, they also pursue power and wealth. Humans have spent generations battling dark forces and have lost some of their greatest kingdoms to them. This loss embitters humans, and they have a warlike view of diplomacy: swing first, ask questions later. Aided by belief in the Holy Light, humans have fought the hardest and endured the most during the wars against the Horde and the Burning Legion. Despite all their tragedies, humans remain hardy and brave, thoroughly committed to building strong societies, reinforcing their kingdoms, and reclaiming their nations. Years of war have tempered human resolve, and they are more hardened and determined than ever before. And their region is Theramore on Kalimdor and Dustwallow Marsh. And they have Lordaeron, but that's not theirs anymore, with Hillsbrad and Kultiris mostly human control, and little settlements in Silverpine Forest, Altrak Mountains, and meanwhile Stormwind, the southern continent, is their capital. It's the strongest nation. They are affiliated with the Alliance. Heck, they started the Alliance. And they have some racial traits, but you can't take levels in human. Makes sense. And their counterpart on the Horde, the Orc. To their enemies, they are brutal and fearsome opponents without parallel in their ferocity and cunning. To their allies, they are noble and honorable, following the traditions of a rediscovered past. The Orcs of Lordaeron are part of a race that has once again found its true spirit, shunning the cruel practices of arcane and demonic magic for the paths of wisdom and power. Some Orcs still hang on to the arcane practices of the past, but their time is fading. Though brutal in combat, Orcs fight with a feral grace and a brutal passion that equals the finest fencing of an elven noble. For an Orc, skill in battle brings great honor. It is the concept of personal honor that pervades Orcish society, a concept that has made the race more cohesive and more of a threat to their adversaries in the Alliance. The concept of honor pervades all echelons of Orcish society. Even the naming of an Orc is temporary until he has performed a rite of passage. Once an Orc has brought honor to his name and the name of his clan, the elders give him a second name based upon his deed. For an Orc, honor is as important as his clan, and most will die defending either clan or personal reputation. This is a new development for the Orcs. Before, when led by the forces tainted by the Burning Legion, the Orcs were a bestial force, barely controlled by demonic magic. While the Orcs might seem quick to anger, they are tempered by the wisdom of their leaders and their shamans. There are a few of the demon-worshipping clans. There are few of them now, for the Alliance or the Horde itself has hunted down most of the remnants of such clans. Now most of the Orcs have embraced a life led by wisdom, honor, and the values embodied in the leadership of Thrall, as taught by his mentor, Orgrim Doomhammer. The Orcs are one of the most populous races on the world of Azeroth. While many of the Alliance races perceive them to be brutish and savage, the Orcs have undeniably spawned a complex society that embraces many occupations and many different races. No doubt the leadership of Thrall and the support of the Tauren and Jungle Troll elders has aided in this solidarity, but it is quite apparent that humanity has underestimated the ability of the Orcs to unify and create their own distinct and powerful culture. Perhaps in time the two factions might come to an understanding, but with the current division of Alliance and Horde, no one can say how that peace might come about or when. I think it's interesting that they are still flirting with that idea that maybe one day they'd be unified. It's slowly getting there. I don't know if it ever will totally get there, but there are signs. Durotar in Kalimdor is the seat of the Orc nation. They are affiliated with the Horde. Heck, they started the Horde, and you cannot take levels in Orc. Here's Tauren. Probably my favorite race. I don't have that many of them, but my first maxed out character ever, way back in the day, was a Tauren. My first level, whatever the first max was, I can't even remember anymore. The plains of Kalimdor have long been a home to these tremendous nomads. The Tauren are a race of shamans, hunters, and warriors who long ago developed a complex culture and system of living without the aid of stonework, steel, or conquest. That is not to say that the Tauren are a race of pacifists, for when they are angered, they are capable of retaliating with swift and decisive brutality. Tauren are, in a word, stoic, embodying the strong and silent type with their quiet contemplation. This introspective air, combined with their immense size, can lead a person to understand how many regard the Tauren as a wise and dangerous race. Tauren rarely speak unless there is a true reason to, preferring to act instead of talk. However, once a Tauren has learned to interact with a companion, there seems to be a more open and enthusiastic exchange of words. Since Tauren warm slowly to non-Tauren, however, they are usually silent and sometimes appear brooding. If anything, a person could attribute the silence of the Tauren on the strife of recent times. Tauren have no love for bloodshed, as their deep spiritual beliefs don't have a place for warfare. The elders of a tribe solve most issues, or two Tauren might resolve a conflict with a ritual challenge resembling a duel. Having become members of the Horde has led the introspective race into more and more conflict, creating a demand for Tauren warriors and healers. Many must spend time putting great thought into the actions they perform on the field of battle. Taking another life, whether it is man or beast, is an act filled with great significance to the Tauren. And they are members of the Horde as well, living in Mulgore and Red Rock Mesa. As they level up, they get a Tauren charge. I don't see the stump, though. I guess it's High Mount Tauren. For them, their faith is the Earth Mother. That's what they really focus on. Although there are, actually that's rogues. And you can take levels in Tauren with some big old fat hit die, improving the Tauren charge. Alright, now we've got Jungle Trolls, man. Several troll subspecies exist, and they are almost universally evil and depraved. Jungle trolls are wily humanoids that live in Azeroth's wilderness. During Thrall's exodus from Lordaeron, the Horde rescued the Darkspear tribe of jungle trolls from the mysterious Sea Witch. The Darkspear tribe owes Thrall and the Orcs a great debt and allied themselves with the Horde in gratitude. Their relationship with the noble Orcs in Tauren has begun to change the Darkspear trolls' savage natures. Most PC jungle trolls are Darkspears. Jungle trolls are sly and cunning, and their society is tribal and highly regimented. Males control everything, females exist only to make more trolls. Each tribe includes a chieftain who is either the most powerful warrior in the tribe or the most accomplished witch doctor. The chieftain leads his soldiers in raids against other creatures. The tribe also includes one or more witch doctors who assist the chieftain with advice and spells. Trolls are adept hunters and daring adversaries. That whole patriarchy, that's definitely faded back in the game. Most jungle trolls are vicious, brutal, and evil. They wage constant war against civilization and attempt to reclaim their past glories. Trolls are a lurking menace in any wilderness area and willingly ally themselves with other dark powers to achieve their goals. Darkspear trolls, however, deny this legacy. The Horde has taught them camaraderie, restraint, and to a lesser extent, kindness. Trolls are famous for their ability to heal their wounds rapidly by regenerating. They live in a variety of jungles, although they do live. Senjin has a village, they have a village named Senjin to the south by the Echo Isles. They are affiliated with the trolls. And yes, you can take jungle troll levels, and later on it says if you look at the Manual of Monsters, you can look at some of the other troll sub-races if you want to flesh that out. But for now, this is all you get. Alright, the Forsaken Undead. They get their improved regeneration if you take more troll levels. This is probably our last class because what have we done? We've done dwarves, we've done gnomes, we've done night elves, we've done humans, we've even done high elves. We've done orcs, Tauren, trolls, and now Forsaken, and we've even done goblins. So unless there's another neutral party. Undead humans and elves freed from the Lich King's control, the Forsaken are a strange and dark force. Hailing from the twisted, skittering darkness of Undercity, the Forsaken are nominally allied with the Horde but serve only themselves. Their objectives are twofold: eliminate the Scourge and establish a place for themselves on Azeroth. 4 years ago, the High Elven Ranger General Sylvanas Windrunner fell in combat against the Scourge. Prince Arthas raised her as a banshee and compelled her to follow his command. When the Lich King's power waned in the incidents surrounding the Frozen Throne, Sylvanas harnessed her fury and tore herself free from his skeletal grasp. She freed many other undead as well, and recruited powerful allies from the Burning Legion and the surrounding ogre clans. Sylvanas dubbed her new force the Forsaken, and the undead established their capital in the labyrinthine crypts beneath Laurent's capital city. Their sprawling subterranean realm is called Undercity. The Forsaken made allies of the Horde out of necessity and convenience. They have no love for orcs, tauren, or any other living creature, but they need time to strike against the Scourge and allies to help them do it. The Forsaken claim that they joined the Horde to prove their desire to leave their evil ways behind, but no one really believes this. The Horde accepts the Forsaken's help, as they do indeed have a common enemy, the Scourge. The Horde is leery of the Forsaken's tactics, however, and keeps watchful eyes on them. This caution is justified. Forsaken culture is strange, a perverse combination of the lives they once knew as mortals and the mindless slavery they experienced in the Scourge, colored by white-hot rage toward the Lich King and an almost equally intense devotion to their queen. Never sleeping, eating, or falling ill, abandoned by those they once loved, the Forsaken have a brutal set of priorities. A great portion of their efforts focus on dark alchemy, and the Royal Apothecary Society commands great power in Undercity's oily tunnels. See, Lands of Conflict. That's either a book we're going to read now, or they're talking about the previous book. The apothecaries constantly send Forsaken on missions to gather odd materials for their twisted experiments. Rumors tell that the undead creatures are working to create a plague that will exterminate the Scourge and every living being on Azeroth. Are the Forsaken evil? At times it can be difficult to tell. Some Forsaken attempt to reclaim their humanity by acting in kind and helpful ways. Others allow hatred to fester into cruelty and rage. All that can be said is that the Forsaken follow their own agendas, and the rest of the world be damned. And if they have their way, it will be. It says their appearance. Unsurprisingly, they look like dead people. They live in Tristful Glades. They are affiliated with the Horde. They have some... there's a way to become a Forsaken. That's neat. And they have some racial traits. You can take Forsaken levels to increase your natural armor class. Oh, and they have really strong hit die. Alright, so this is the last thing we're going to read. We're not going to go on to chapter 3, which is next, because this has been long enough. But we'll read this last little text that says, "The problem of evil and other philosophical conundrums." Including Forsaken heroes in an adventuring party poses some challenges for GMs and players alike, namely evil. Not all Forsaken are evil, but many are, and other races definitely view them as such. A non-evil Forsaken hero must work hard to prove his neutral or perhaps good intentions. Few good Forsaken exist, but many evil ones do, and their leadership is definitely up to nefarious ends. GMs should think carefully before allowing an evil Forsaken hero. These are heroes, after all, so they should be good or at least neutral. Immunities. Undead are immune to lots of stuff. This can make it challenging to design adventures that properly endanger the Forsaken PC and the party as a whole. Poison, backstab, and many spells and other effects are useless against Forsaken in Dungeons & Dragons, but not World of Warcraft. Keep in mind that the PC's opponents know this just as well as the PCs do and do not go out of their way to poison or backstab a Forsaken. Similarly, most denizens of Azeroth know Forsaken weaknesses such as positive energy and supposed immediate destruction at 0 hit points. Motivation. Why would a horrible undead creature join a group of adventuring heroes? Especially when all he wants is to see the Lich King destroyed and his kind ruling over the ashes of a dead world. Most Forsaken are pretty despicable, and their motivations as a race are evil and destructive. Yet this does not mean that your Forsaken has to be that way. Heroes are exceptions by default. And that's what I feel like when you create a Forsaken in WoW, that's how it is. Perhaps your Forsaken rebels against his race, seeks a better way to end the Lich King's reign, or searches for a way to reclaim his lost humanity. Raising the dead. Forsaken are immune to the more common forms of raised dead. Make sure you understand this danger before you choose to play a Forsaken, especially because Forsaken tend to have fewer hit points than other races. It says that Forsaken have fewer hit points. But how is that true? They have a D12 as their hit die, and it says I don't understand that. Maybe it's because they have a constitution. Oh, they have no stamina. That's why. So they get no pluses on their hit points. That adds up over time. They also do not heal naturally. Ooh, so they're really creating disincentives to play Forsaken, which is trash, man. Let them play the Forsaken. All right, everyone. We got some more of this interesting. Yeah, I feel like if you like Dungeons and Dragons and you like World of Warcraft, this is a nice cross section. And I think it's really priming us. It's probably going to get a little bit redundant when we read the strategy guides and the game manuals for World of Warcraft Classic. A lot of this stuff is going to be rehashed, but it's really building us up. Anticipation is quivering. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. This episode in the pod 5x5.